Bigyan ko naman kayo mga kababayan ngayon, weekend naman, ng out of this world story. What? Ano niya yan, Mr. Maravillas, na sinasabi mong out of this world story? Out of this world kasi from, this is actually from other worlds. Sabi rito, shocking, letter exposes top secret UFO programs involving Canada in Five Eyes Alliance. So ano ito mga kababayan na tinatawag na Five Eyes Alliance? Alyansa po ito ng mga bansa tulad ng Amerika, Australia, UK, yung mga English-speaking, majority English-speaking countries. Yung mga mayayamang bansa, mga kababayan, ang sabi rito, in possession sila ng mga technologies, very advanced technology, mga kababayan, kasi hindi man po siya gawa ng tao, kundi gawa ng mga alien beings, out of this world beings po. Yun ang sinasabi dito sa kwento. What? Sabi ko sa inyo, na itong mga advances natin sa technology, shocking po, very exponential. Napakabilis yung mga advances natin sa ating technology ngayon. Some of this po, hindi na po gawa ng mga tao. These are already fallen angel technology or alien technology. Sabi ko sa inyo sa mga previous discussions natin, yung AI po na tinatawag na artificial intelligence, ang tawag namin dyan, alien intelligence na po, mga kababayan. Kasi itong mga bansang ito, secretly in possession na po ng fallen angel technology. Kasi matagal na po nilang na-recover yung mga UFOs na tinatawag, they are already in possession matagal na. Sinisikreto lang po nila. Pero sabi nga, walang sikretong hindi mabubulgar. So ngayon po, actually, tingin ko sinasadya na nilang ibulgar. What? Di ba? Kasi tingin ko mga kababayan, sa kanilang paniwala, ready na po yung mundo na natanggapin ang presence ng mga fallen angels. Ang tawag nila kasi aliens po eh. Sa aming mga believers, mga fallen angels po siya. And they have their technology. Very, very advanced technology, mga kababayan. But before ko ibigay sa inyo yung kwento, click subscribe muna dito sa ating YouTube channel. And hit the notification bell, mga kababayan, para lagi kayong updated na mga kaganapan dito sa ating mundo and beyond. And like and share na rin po ninyo ng ating video. At wag na rin po ninyo, mga kababayan, na escape yung ating mga commercial ads para baka maka-acquire din tayo ng mga fallen angel technology. Binibinta na yata nila. Ito yung mga balita po. Ibigay ko po sa inyo. Yung isa sabi rito, Canada attends first of its kind UFO briefing at the Pentagon. Kita ninyo, seryoso talaga po sila. This is the report from the CBC News. Another story, sabi rito. Ito na po siya. Canadian MP Larry Maguires, member of the parliament mismo yung source ng balita. Nagsulat siya formally, mga kababayan. Canadian MP member of the parliament Larry Maguires letter exposes top secret UFO programs involving Canada in Five Eyes Alliance. So, ano itong Five Eyes Alliance? So, sabi rito, Sa sulat po daw na pinadala ni Canadian Member of Parliament Larry Maguire, iniling nito sa Canada's Minister of National Defense na si Anita Anand to formally request a classified briefing on the UFO program. Itong mga bansang ito, mga kababayan kasi, matagal na silang engaged in reverse engineering. Ano po itong reverse engineering? Ito po yung activities nilang ginagawa matapos na ma-capture nila yung mga UFOs. So, in possession po itong mga bansang ito, mga kababayan, ng mga tinatawag na unidentified flying objects from other worlds. You see, matagal na pala sila na in possession nitong mga UFOs. So, pinag-aaralan nila. So, they are engaging in reverse engineering. Tinitingnan nila kung paano na-develop ang ganong uri ng technology, ang ganong uri ng spacecraft, mga kababayan. Siyempre, yung loob ng spacecraft, kasama yon sa mga pinag-aralan nila in the reverse engineering activity. Kaya wag na tayo magtaka kung bakit ngayon we have advances in technology. Malamang sa malamang, mga kababayan, na ito'y galing sa tinatawag na alien technology. You see? Kaya sabi dito, I am writing to recommend you request a classified briefing containing full, sensitive, and protected program information from your officials on the Government of Canada's historical and ongoing efforts on analyzing recovered UAP material. So naka-recover po pala, mga kababayan, ng mga UAP. Ano yung UAP? Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon material. Yung mga nag-crash, yung mga nag-landing siguro, o yung mga na-capture nila mismo. So sabi rito, that's just the tip of the iceberg. This is the kind of groundbreaking information that will leave you questioning everything you thought you know. Sabi ko sa inyo na yung mga fallen angels po, they are real beings as described in the Word of God, in the Bible. Kaya reliable po yung Bible. O, tingnan ninyo. Nagiging mainstream na po yung mga balita. Pinag-uusapan na po ng mainstream media mismo. At yung mga nagdi-discuss nito, mga kababayan, mga credible officials of the government, member of the parliament, ano man magsusulat man yon, mga kababayan, sa defense minister nila, kung walang base, yung kanilang mga ginagawa, yung kanilang mga sinasabi. Di ba? Pakinggan po natin ito na interview tungkol po sa kwentong ito.
Well, a bombshell letter or report has just emerged from a Canadian Member of Parliament, Larry Maguire. In this letter, Maguire reveals that the Canadians, along with the other Five Eyes alliance, the US, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK, have UFOs or UAPs from other worlds, off-world vehicles, and they are
the reverse engineering data on how to build these technologies. So
Madali lang po. Tumalon. Tumalon yung yung balita. Tumalon yung kwento na na-touch ko kasi. Sandali. I-play ko ulit po.
Exact subject, and he joins us now. Dr. Sala, welcome back to the show. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
US, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK have UFOs or UAPs from other worlds, off-world vehicles, and they are actively reverse engineering these craft and then, of course, covering it up. Dr. Michael Sala is one of the world's leading experts on this subject. He writes at exopolitics.org, and he writes about intergovernmental politics and this exact subject, and he joins us now. Dr. Sala, welcome back to the show. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get into the details of this letter and what this member of parliament has said, what is the Five Eyes Alliance for our viewers who might not know what this means?
Well, the Five Eyes Alliance is an alliance of 5 English-speaking countries that were allied with the British in some way, former colonies. So, as you mentioned, Britain, you have the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, and they cooperate in a range of intelligence and research projects going all the way back to the Second World War. And today they have been identified as with these UAP study groups, and that they led up by
sila yung may possession po itong Five Eyes Alliance na mga bansa.
Engineering program
Engaged in reverse engineering kasi in possession sila mga kababayan ng mga UAP, UFOs.
Stands out to you?
Well, there were a few things that stood out there. It was a letter to the National Defence Minister of Canada, and Maguire is a current MP for the Canadian Parliament, and he was concerned that the AUKUS alliance, which is a treaty or an agreement between Australia, the United Kingdom, and the US, which is a defence treaty designed primarily to deal with China in the Pacific, that they are making moves to reveal the existence of some kind of alien reverse engineering program. And for some reason, Canada and New Zealand have been kind of left out of that particular loop. And that with AUKUS making an announcement in the near future, that Canada would look very foolish if it didn't introduce greater transparency regarding UAPs, UFOs, and any kind of reverse engineering studies that they have been involved in. So this letter was released in March of this year, and it said that by May, the Canadian government really should take steps to release some information about what the Canadians have been doing regarding UAPs. So he was really warning the Canadian government that, you know, they really need to be proactive here, otherwise they'll be kind of left in the wake as Australia, the UK, and the US take the lead in revealing.
So, nagsulat po yung member ng parliament ng Canada kasi nalilift out sila sa mga information regarding dito sa reverse engineering program. Kaya importante niya na maging proactive tayo, or else mapag-iwanan tayo. So, ang mangyari niyan, magiging very advanced yung mga bansa, mga kababayan na kaalyado nga nila, pero parang hindi sinishare sa kanila yung mga information na yung America, United Kingdom, Australia, Netherlands. Nagugulangan siguro. Dapat niya, tayo lang yung in possession nito. At kung may madiscovery tayo, mapag-aralan natin sa reverse engineering nating ginagawa dito sa mga UAP ito, UFOs na na-recover natin, tayo yung magkinabang. What? Possibly, ganun yung intensyon. Nakahalata yung member of the parliament, si MP member Larry Maguire. Kaya po, sulat na po siya sa Defense Minister ng Canada. So, ganon mga kababayan. So, nagsulat mga kababayan, yung member of the parliament ng Canada, kasi siguro nakalata sila na para niya hindi tayo ina-update tungkol dito sa activity nilang reverse engineering. Pag hindi nila ginawa, malilift out sila mga kababayan tungkol dito sa mga emerging technologies na sa tingin nila, these are already out of this world technology. Alien technology na po, mga kababayan, kasi na-extract nila yung information about this technology galing po sa mga UAP recovered or out of this world UFOs or aerial vehicle, ang ibig sabihin ng UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, or UFOs mga kababayan, or unidentified flying object. Kaya lang, pinalitan na nila ngayon ng tawag, UAP na po. They have recovered this material mga kababayan. And with that, naging apprehensive po yung Canada na baka ma-left out sila sa mga developments na to. Kaya nagsulat na po. Nagugulangan din siguro mga kababayan ito, mga bansang ito. Kailangan na niya, sikritoin natin ito. Huwag na natin isama yung iba. Tayo na lang para yung advances sa technology sa atin lang. Tayo yung magkinabang. O, ganun talaga po yung mga tao. Di ba? Siyempre, kung sino yung maka-acquire ng ganito, mga napaka-advanced na technology, sila yung magli-lead sa mundo. Sila yung yayaman lalo at magiging powerful. So, ganun po siya mga kababayan. So, ituloy natin mga kababayan.
What's going on in these reverse engineering programs, whereas Canada and New Zealand are left out because they're not part of the AUKUS agreement. They're not part of the kind of sharing of the nuclear secrets at the highest level.
And then as far as Canada goes, what programs have you heard from, whether it's whistleblowers or members of the government over the years, that Canada has been actively involved in this research and downed craft, et cetera? Of course, famously, we have the Shag Harbor incident a number of years ago, something that that was one of the first real UFO incidents that I became really fascinated on at a younger age for me. But beyond Shag Harbor, what do we know of Canada and sightings and testimony from credible sources?
Well, we know from Canada that there have been a lot of UFO incidents there, and that all the intelligence on those incidents have been shared with the US, and now we know with the Five Eyes partners, and that the US has, with the Canadian government, gone in to explore those incidents, such as Shag Harbor that you mentioned, and that whatever craft were found, they were taken to the United States, particularly to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for reverse engineering, and that was the agreement. That was the way it was all set up immediately after the Second World War. That these Five Eyes countries, they would share intelligence on any of these craft that were found. And that the US would
marami na palang nakuha
study in reverse engineering of those craft.
Na mga
in the 1960s, after
UFOs mga kababayan for study in reverse engineering po.
Freedom of Information Act legislation in the US, these projects began to be kind of shared between the different Five Eyes nations. So you would have like Australia, Canada, Britain, like taking a greater role in kind of like some of the follow-on of the study of these projects. And now we know from this Maguire letter that Australia, Britain, and the US are sharing the reverse engineering data on how to build these technologies. So I think, for example,
so pinag-aralan nila para ma-duplicate nila. That is the purpose of reverse engineering. Ma-duplicate nila, makuha nila yung technology, makopya.
Particular program where some of these craft, these reverse engineered craft, whether we're talking flying saucer-shaped craft or flying triangle-shaped craft, that these are now being built in Australia, and Australia is going to be developing an indigenous kind of like space program, secret space program.
Do you believe that, I mean, your reporting on this has been amazing, and of course, going back to Admiral Byrd in Antarctica.
So, yung Australia nagde-develop ng secret space program. Yung technology galing doon.
Of craft from the Germans after World War II. I mean,
na-acquire nila through reverse engineering, kinokopya nila.
Aren't fully aware aren't brought up to speed on the fact that the Germans actually, a large portion of the production was moved to Antarctica, as you've reported, and many others have now come forward and reported as well. So this production of reverse engineering of craft, which a lot of it takes place in Antarctica, has a lot of that moved away from there now, or towards Australia and other places, or is a lot of it still happening in Antarctica?
Yes, well, what happened in Antarctica is a big key to understanding what has really been this race between all the major nations in terms of finding, studying, reverse engineering, and putting into action whatever kind of craft that they've found around the world. And the Germans did send a significant contingent down to Antarctica, and that they were able to survive the end of the Second World War. They were able to deal with successive attacks by the British military in 1946 and then by the US Navy in 1947. The two successive Antarctic summers after the Second World War, and after those attacks were successfully defeated, where the Germans down there were able to put into operation their reverse engineered flying saucer craft. So they actually built these things in the 1940s and defeated the best aircraft that the Navy had that was sent against them in Antarctica. And so after that, agreements were reached between the Germans and the Americans. That's the background behind Operation Paperclip. And the Germans were a key role in helping reverse engineer these technologies that were being found all over the world and being taken to places like Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for study, and to various facilities around the United States. So what's happened is that more and more of the production of these craft has been shifted out of the United States into Five Eyes countries like UK, like Australia. And what Australia offers is a vast continent, which with a very small population. And so you can have very large facilities there built in places like Pine Gap in Australia and other areas in Australia where virtually no one knows what's going on. And it's because it's thousands of miles from the largest metropolitan areas, you can have production of vast fleets of spacecraft. So I think that's what's happening, that Australia has been chosen to host the production of a lot of these reverse engineered spacecraft, and that what's happening in Antarctica, a lot of the facilities down there continue to exist. They continue to be used by various corporations, but more and more of that is being shifted into Australia, because now Australia has a lot of advantages over Antarctica, because it's much more accessible. It's in a friendly country where legislation can be passed to prevent kind of external or other third countries from coming in particular China. Whereas in Antarctica, the big problem is China is building bases all over Antarctica. And so the more of these reverse engineering facilities remain hidden in Antarctica, the more likely China is going to be able to build bases on the surface and kind of like find out what's going on down there.
Fascinating. I mean, to me, the
Britain and in the US share.
So yun po mga kababayan, yung mga updates. So ito po yung patunay na maybe majority ng mga bagong emerging technologies na ginagamit ngayon ng mga tao sa mundo, lalo na itong mga advanced countries, mga kababayan, ay duplication na po ng alien technology. And malamang sa malamang tama yung ating paniwala, mga kababayan. Of the Christian researchers po, all throughout the world, na yung AI po, artificial intelligence na tinatawag natin, and this digitalization na nangyayari po sa buong mundo, parte na po ito ng alien fallen angel technology. Ano tingin ninyo, mga kababayan? Kasi magtataka ka sa bilis ng explosion po ng advances in technology nowadays mga kababayan. So, yan po mga kababayan. Yan man lang. Baka lang gusto ninyo itong itry. Firmax Firming and Lifting Cream. Pinapahid po sa mga pulses and affected area. Mainam po sa paninigas na mga kaso-kasuan. Ito naman po Automax Radiant Serum. Sa mukha naman yung application. Anti-aging po siya. You will look 10 years younger than your age. Sa mga cancer patients naman po, baka lang gusto ninyo itong itry. Ningxia Red Mixed Fruit Drink. Hindi naman po siya gamot, food supplement siya. Kaya lang, gawa siya mga kababayan sa goji berry. Yung goji berry may anti-cancer properties. Ayos, yung mga inquiries ninyo, dumiretso na lang po kayo sa aming messenger sa Facebook para masagot namin agad. Ako po si Dante Maravillas. Bye-bye. God bless.